I can't believe YouTube did this. My last video where I simply pointed out that Megan Fox and MGK admitted to literally drinking each other's blood.
It's just a few drops, but yes, we do consume each other's blood on occasion for ritual purposes only.
Got flagged with a YouTube community note. YouTube said I was pushing satanic panic marketing. But then I had to laugh, because what exactly do you call it when celebrities openly admit to rituals involving blood? Therefore, let's play YouTube's little game. Is this satanic or is it not? Sam Smith prancing around at the Grammys dressed as the devil. Satanic or not? Lil Nas X releasing a Satan shoe with literal blood in it. Satanic or not? The music video where he gives the devil a lap dance. Satanic or not? May not be satanic, but we could definitely admit that it is rainbow behavior. I guess that's kind of the point, isn't it? But then when someone points all this out, suddenly it's just satanic panic. So therefore, my question is to YouTube and anyone that's criticizing this is, where do you draw the line? At what point is it okay to call something satanic? And why does it make me the problem instead of the celebrity doing it? So in this video, we're going to get into the dark history around actual satanic panic, how it's even creeping into the church, and why some Christians believe that we shouldn't even address the utter lunacy that is happening around some of these rituals. But before we get into that, guys, my name is Ruslan. This channel exists to encourage, empower, and inspire you to live a life that blesses God. Before I was doing YouTube professionally, I was actually a professional hip-hop artist. I traveled all around the world performing, did some different deals with some big corporations, and got to see a sneak peek behind what's really going on in the music industry. And not all of it is satanic, but goodness gracious, a lot of it is. So this channel is an overflow of that. I speak on topics that I find interesting and provide my perspective as someone that's been walking with Jesus for 25 years and also doing music and YouTube professionally. So if you're new here, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. I'll go in there, peek around, say hello to you. If you like the video, remember to hit like, follow, all that good stuff, as we are on the verge of reaching 800,000 subscribers here on this channel. All right, let's jump into this video. All right, so what is satanic panic and how's it connected to satanic panic marketing, and what do I ultimately think is happening here with YouTube? Okay, so back in the 1980s, America went through what's now called satanic panic. It started with a book, Michelle Remembers, written by a psychiatrist and his patient. The story was wild. Secret underground rituals, children being tortured, portals to hell opening up, and then miraculously healed by the Virgin Mary. Sounds like a horror movie, right? Well, that's because, in a way, it was. The book used recovered memories, a therapy technique now completely discredited. But then things got darker. Allegations spread everywhere. Suddenly, daycare workers, school teachers, and random suburban parents were accused of running underground satanic cults. The McMartin preschool trial became the longest and most expensive trial in U.S. history. Children were questioned with manipulative tactics, told to point to dolls and imagine what might have happened. And the stories spiraled. Kids claimed they saw witches flying, secret tunnels under the playground, even Chuck Norris as an abuser. Therefore, what we had was a full-blown moral panic. Over 12,000 accusations across the country. Families ruined, people in prison, careers destroyed. And in the end, not a shred of physical evidence. That is what satanic panic was. A wildfire of false accusations with no evidence, fueled by fear, daytime talk shows, and cultural anxiety. And so what we saw happen in media was that some artists started to play into this a little bit. They started to lean into all the hysteria. And they started by kind of trolling with the conservative groups and leaning into the satanic imagery, because they knew that if there was outrage, there would be equal embrace from folks that were younger and teenagers. But there's a difference in what we're describing here. Satanic panic was based on fabricated memories and hysteria. This video was about what Megan Fox actually said about drinking MGK's blood. She is openly admitting it, platforming it, celebrating it, and branding it. There was literal blood in Lil Nas X's shoes. That was a real devil costume that he put on. These things are actually happening right before our eyes. Now, is it possible that these artists are also trolling a little bit? Is it possible that they're also leaning in to the hysteria that they know that maybe Christians like me will have? Well, I would say absolutely so. I mean, I feel like Lil Nas X more or less admitted that he was doing it to get a reaction out of the Christian community because he, quote unquote, felt hurt by the Christian community as a kid. But here's the issue with trolling in this regard. Even if it starts out as, I'm going to get back at those Christians for how they made me feel. The issue is my buddy Shane Smith, who came on this channel, also dabbled with some of this satanic imagery and practice as a joke initially. And in our conversation from several years ago, he said this. When you say Satanism,
Yeah.
are you talking about atheist trolling religion Satanism? Or are you talking about actual power in the satanic
They're the same
aspect?
thing. They're the same.
They're the same thing.
They're no different. The Satanism that's like registered with the government, the like quote unquote religion that uses its like church, for lack of a better term, in order to affect politics, like trying to take the Ten Commandments down because they're like, well, if you get the Ten Commandments, we get Baphomet type thing. Those people are trying to be secular, and it is like it's an aesthetic dressing in order to be political and troll, but also the types of people who come to them are interested in witchcraft and magic, are doing actual Satanism. And so it would be like if you started a fake Christian church and then people started showing up and they were like, well, it's Christian, let's do Christian stuff, even if it's aesthetic. And then before you know it, you're like, what would Christ want us to do on Monday? You know? And now you're actually doing it.
You're saying that you're a 8 out of 10 atheist, influenced by the new atheists, and you're going into it initially you're intent. Are you going into it as a means to troll?
Yeah.
Or are you going into it as like, like I'm down with Satan, like that's the homie?
So I'm going into it like I'm down to troll. It's like a meme to get like 666 or all these things tattooed on you. And then you go, oh, the Church of Satan, that's so funny and edgy. And they're doing politics. And then like the hot girls are like, I'm going to sign up, whatever. And then you do it too. And then you're like, oh, but what about the aesthetic of magic? Like, how crazy is magic? And now you're reading occult stuff. And now you're like, what if I tried it? You know, or like, what if we did it? Or what if I got like sigil tattoo? And then it like cascades down into the next thing you know, you're like, I wonder if this worked. And then you're hearing like Satanist arguments or whatever. If God is so loving, why would he send his son to die instead of him? Which is obvious. They're the same guy. But like, you know, as a Satanist, Satanists are Gnostics, you know, they're Gnostic heretics too.
So how deep did you get into like the I don't know how else to say it, like the quote unquote real stuff?
Deep enough that like I had the sigil of Satan. I would argue against Christians that Satan is the better guy. I got into it, and then now I'm getting into magic and I'm getting into sigils and like all these other bad things, and I'm, you know, practicing. And then I have a woman in my life who was encouraging me to do these things. And so it was incredibly negative.
So my buddy Shane Smith, who was an actual practicing Satanist, basically says that yes, people get into this kind of thing as a joke, as a troll, and then it becomes real. And then it starts to overtake you. And then it becomes very negative. And I think that's actually what we're likely seeing with these celebrities that are doing this sort of thing. It starts out as a joke, but then it actually starts impacting them, and then through proxy impacting the listener. So the real question isn't, is this sort of stuff satanic? I think the obvious answer is yes. By definition, they're trying to make Satan look cool. The deeper question is, how should Christians respond when this is the culture that we're living in? And I've been on both sides of this. I've been like, hey, some of this stuff, I think we need to ignore, like when that Lil Nas X video came out, I think we need to ignore that. Other stuff where you see people that are imploding like a Machine Gun Kelly, I think need to be addressed head on, especially when we're highlighting alternatives and antidotes to what's happening. So let me point this out. There is nothing neutral with regards to the spirit realm. I think for Christians who just shrug it off and go, hey dude, it's just art, it's a vibe, it's not that deep. Jesus says there is no middle ground. Matthew 12:30, he says, whoever is not with me is against me. 2 Corinthians 4:4 says that the God of this world has blinded the minds of unbelievers. So the idea that neutrality is even a possibility is in and of itself siding with darkness. And when we buy into neutrality, we slide into something that's even more dangerous: syncretism. See, the second point I want to make with you guys is that syncretism is the poison that as a Christian, you could blend in worldviews with those that are far from God. This is when you're blending faith with other worldviews. So think Christians who are mixing Jesus with a little bit of astrology, mixing Jesus with New Age manifestation, or completely shrugging off occult practices and aesthetics. In 2 Corinthians 6:14, it says, what fellowship does light have with darkness? In Revelation chapter 3, we see Jesus rebuking lukewarm believers. Jesus doesn't share the throne with anybody. If he really is your Lord and Savior, that means that he is Lord over your life. He is Lord over what you consume. He is Lord over how you talk. He is Lord over how you carry yourself on social media. And if we can't draw that line clearly in the sand, we'll never build anything better. will just be a regurgitated version of whatever is happening in the world, which leads me to my final point. As followers of Jesus, we have to build better culture. But in order to build better culture, we have to expose and address the dark culture that's existing. Now, I'm not talking about every single Christian creator that is just primarily making videos in the expose niche. That's not what I'm talking about. But I am talking about Ephesians 5:11, which says, take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. You see, Christians can't build the superior culture we're supposed to build if we're afraid to call out the darkness of the current one. Jesus came full of grace and truth. You see that in John 1:14. He comes into the world as a man in a material, physical world, but he never compromised the truth just to make it more palatable. And we see that at scale. As I pointed out in my previous video, we see how much uncompromising Christians like the Forrest Franks, the Phil Wickhams, the Brandon Lakes can do in this new world where often people just seem to have a taste for something different. We see this stuff exploding, going from, small rooms to 1,500 cap rooms to then arenas and stadiums. Why? Because they aren't afraid to go in the world. They aren't afraid to be a part of what's happening in culture, but they're not co-signing it. They're not shrugging it off. They are being compelling and excellent, yet their art is life-giving. And I think we're going to see this continue scale in other areas. I just came from Holy Smoke Fest. My guys, Indie Tribe headlined. Amazing, amazing, amazing time. And I think that we're going to see this happening in Christian hip-hop. We're going to see this happening in other areas. But if we can't tell our up from down, our left from right, our light from dark, then what are we even doing here? Why are we even tolerating this sort of stuff? So what I'm not saying is that we need to just constantly be exposing everything that the world is doing wrong. I get it. The world is spiritually blind. I'm not going to constantly be upset or confused when a blind person walks into me at a busy subway. But at the same time, if we're never addressing it, if we're never being direct and we're always just tolerating it and being soft and handling these things with kitty gloves, what does that say about us? And honestly, I'm personally sick of it. I'm sick of it in this sense. I'm sick of it in the church not equipping people to actively go after their full potential and their abilities and their talents and their things that they're supposed to be doing on this side of eternity. And I'm also upset with what's happening in the world where all people are told to do is just be the very best version of themselves and make ambition and aspiration their God and a North Star. See, too many folks in the Christian world wrongfully equate all ambition with sin. So when you're telling them, hey, you don't have to repeat the same mistakes as your family. You don't have to stay stuck. You don't have to live paycheck to paycheck. You don't have to stay in bondage despite what's happening in the world. That you can find freedom from the addiction, from the poverty, from whatever it is you're going through if you're living in the West, especially. And so the idea that ambition is wrong or that telling people you can do it today despite the odds, telling people that you can build a career in something creative and something that you love and the world needs is possible, somehow that's wrong. I get this sense and it's disgusting. I'm honestly really frustrated with this idea that if you're going to tell people they can do it, if you're going to tell people that there is a godly way to pursue ambition, you're just tone deaf. I think it's stupid. I think it's dumb. I think too many people are sliding into this. And that's why so many folks in the church have mediocre lives. And that's why so many Christians historically in the arts have put out mediocre art or have done it in a way that's lackluster. They may have the best art out there, but they're kind of lazy with it, with how they put it out there. So I think we have to get over this lie that all ambition is evil, because in Philippians, Paul makes the distinction that it's not ambition that's evil. It's selfish ambition. You see, godly ambition, making the most of our time, talent, treasure, using our gifts as stewardship to impact the world for God's glory. You see, that is absolutely necessary. And so that lie that all ambition is evil, in my opinion, is a lie from the pit of hell that too many Christians have bought into. And so ambition without Christ is empty, but ambition surrendered to Christ changes culture. It builds better culture. That's the heartbeat of what I'm trying to do with this godly ambition message. It's just weird that people are resistant towards it. This isn't something new I came up with. This is reading Matthew 25. This is reading 1 Timothy 5. This is reading Luke 16. This is seeing it all throughout Scripture, all throughout Proverbs. And people are like, oh, why are you telling me that God has more for me? Oh, that's not fun. It's like, friends, We don't have to just be conformed to the ways of the world. We could be transformed by the renewing of our minds. All right, so let's circle back to this idea of satanic panic and YouTube hit me with the community guidelines on this video. Like, I'll re-emphasize, I don't think anything is neutral. I think synchronism is oftentimes worse than just saying you're a pagan. And I think ultimately Christians should have no fear in exposing darkness. I'm not saying that's all we should be doing. I think we should be pointing people to the light. But I think oftentimes we need to point out what's dark in order to get people to see what is the light. If we can't name evil, if we can't stand 10 toes down in what's happening here, I think that just gets in the way of us stewarding what we've been giving. And let me just say this. What I think happened with that video is I don't think YouTube was messing with me and trying to hit me with the community guideline strike because there was an issue with my video. I actually think it's just because I simply said satanic panic in the video that they added that community guidelines thing. I actually think it'll probably be in this video. We'll see at the time that this comes out. But if I'm wrong and YouTube wants to call that panic, that's fine too. If Christians want to look down their nose and scoff at what we do here, that's fine too. But I think I shouldn't have to ask for permission to call a spade a spade. And I think Christians who don't, honestly, don't have a backbone. So if you want to check out the original video that I'm talking about, we'll have that here. If you want to pick up the brand new book, Godly Ambition, get the first 4 chapters, an ebook, and the audio video of me reading to them, and access to some other tools and resources like an exclusive podcast with me and Jonathan Pokluda, we'll have that here. By the way, I'm also going to be doing shows coming up in Nashville, Oceanside, and Dallas, Texas. I'd love to see you at one of those cities. Go to mygodlyambition.com or hit the pinned comment for more information. We're out of here. Love you. Peace.